Hello, St. Joan of Arc families. This week, as we near the end of our faith year, our readings invite us to look for signs. And this inspires our question. Can we say it together?
How can we read God's signs?
In today's readings, some of God's signs refer to end times, which might seem kind of scary, but that's not how we're meant to see them. In the first reading, we hear that those who help to bring about justice will shine like beautiful stars forever, a sign of their goodness. In the Gospel, Jesus tells us that even though all things will end, His word will never end. His word, which is love, will never end. Those who follow His word of love, those who work for justice and peace, will shine like beautiful stars in a night sky, a sign that we will always be with Him. As our readings ask us to look for signs that God is with us, we have a story, Holes in the Sky, written and illustrated by Patricia Polacco, in which a girl receives a sign from her beloved grandmother reminding her that she is surrounded by love. Our reader is Richard Dodson.
My Russian babushka, my mother's mother, shared so many things with me. She told me that the stars made a faint humming sound on hot summer nights. She shared a dab of vanilla behind both her and my ears when we baked in the kitchen so we would smell delicious. And she shared her lap whenever I needed a story. One night, it was too hot to sleep in my grandmother's house, so we carried our blankets to the yard. We gazed up at the stars. You know what those stars really are, don't you? Holes in the sky. The light of God is shining through them from the other side. Richie, my brother, and I looked at each other. What are the holes for? I asked. They are the way to God. When it's our time, we all must leave this earth. That's where we go, to the other side. What Richie and I didn't know was that it was almost Babushka's time. Soon I must go there. But I'll be watching over both of you through those holes each and every night, she told us. I'll send you a sign so you'll know. It wasn't more than a month later that my beloved babushka went through those holes. Even though she had tried to prepare us, I was devastated. There would never be another babushka. Soon after, Grandpa sold our farm. Mom got a teaching job way out in California, and we were moving there. The drive took 3 days. As we crossed the desert at night, I'd look up at the dazzling array of stars that crowded the skies. I found myself whispering, "Please, Babush, give me a sign you're there." Almost as soon as we arrived in Oakland, we found the perfect house, and Mom bought it. But I noticed that our lawn and the lawns of all the other houses on our street were brown and dried up, dead. It was the drought. We badly needed rain. Our house instantly felt like home. I discovered a small window in my closet that pushed open to reveal a clear view of the sky. That first night, I opened the window and whispered, "I miss you so much, Babushka. I need that sign." But it didn't come. One day there was a loud knock at my front door. When I answered it, a boy was standing there with a paper basket of freshly picked flowers. I'd never seen anyone like him before. He had brown skin and curly black hair that framed his face. "The O'Learys used to live here," he said. "What have you guys done to the place?" "See for yourself," I said as I motioned him in. "Name's Stuart. Live right up the block," he chirped as he went from room to room. He noticed the art table. "You have a ton of paper. We could make thousands of May baskets." He took a seat and grabbed a pair of scissors. We must have made 10 baskets, easy. I didn't have the heart to ask him where we'd get the flowers to fill them. We put them in Stuart's wagon, and he walked me up to his house. His lawn was brown like everyone else's, but in his front yard was a string of rose bushes. "We use buckets of water we've saved from the washing machine to water these flowers," he said. We picked enough flowers to fill our paper baskets, then began to amble down the block, selling them at every house. My new neighbors weren't like the folks back home. In Michigan, pretty much everyone looked alike. Here, people were so different. We'd sold all our baskets and were making our way back home when we passed a house with a yard buried in dusty vines and tall weeds. I almost couldn't see the house. "Old Lady Bocce's place," he hissed. "She's mean to all us kids." I saw the curtains part slightly and knew that the lady was inside watching us. We bought ice cream for a bunch of neighborhood kids with what we earned, and finally called it a day. The best day ever. That night, I looked up at the stars from my little window. "Babushka," I whispered, "I met the greatest kid today. You just love him." I watched the sky for a sign from her. But there was no sign. Stuart and I became best friends. I learned that he had a grandmother, Miss Eula, who took care of the kids and the house, and whom everyone in the neighborhood just loved. One day, Stuart said his grandmother wanted to meet me. Her kitchen smelled like my bubby's kitchen, the air heavy with the aromas of freshly baked bread and sugar cookies. Miss Eula May Walker stood with her back to us, stirring a crock pot on a cast iron wood stove, just like my bubbies back home. "Grandmommy, she's here, the girl I've been telling you about," Stuart said. "So this is the child," she cried. "Well, baby dear, you come right over here and let me give you some sugar." She threw open her arms and I jumped into her hug. I didn't ever want to let go. "Stuart tells me that you two met because of flowers," she said. "Did he tell you about my secret garden?" She smiled as she led us out back, where we stepped into Miss Eula's glorious garden. It looked like something out of a storybook. Enormous rose bushes, resplendent bougainvilleas, bird baths everywhere, full of fluttering sparrows. The yard was alive with flitting butterflies and hummingbirds. I was breathless. On the back porch stood dozens of buckets. "That's how we keep these flowers healthy," Miss Eula said, "by pouring gray water on them every day. Bath water, washing machine, and even dishwater." I could hardly take in the beauty. "You know, baby dears," Miss Eula said, "there was another backyard garden on this block that was even more beautiful than this one. Verna Bocce's." "That mean old crab?" Stuart mumbled. "Her yard sure looks awful now." Miss Eula paused. "Verna was my best friend. Still is, really. But since her son Angelo died, she hasn't been the same." "I didn't even know she had a son," Stuart blurted out. "She and I planted our gardens at the same time," Miss Eula said. "We helped each other. Her garden was magnificent. It looked like something out of Italy. She and her son Angelo spent hours and hours making it look as beautiful as it was. He was going to be a landscape gardener when he grew up. He was lost in a terrible accident. I expect seeing all you children laughing and playing is a constant reminder that her child is gone." "No wonder she's so mean," I whispered. "She must be lonely. Maybe if we do something really nice for her, she'll know that she's not alone. Maybe we could bring her garden back to life," Stuart offered. "In this drought? That'd take a miracle." "Oh, baby dears," Miss Eula said, "miracles are everywhere. They're all around us, just waiting to jump up." I caught my breath. My bubby used to say that exact same thing. "Stuart, you have a wonderful idea." Miss Eula laughed from a holy place inside. "Verna is going to visit her sister in Fresno in just a few days. Maybe that's the time to make this miracle happen." Sure enough it was. Miss Eula got everyone on the block to help bring Miss Bocce's garden back to life. They started in the backyard. Miss Eula was everywhere. She knew where everything had once been, so she directed the neighbors where to slash, where to dig, where to prune, and everyone worked their heads off. "Oh, darlings," Miss Eula cooed to each of us, "good work, good work." It took 4 days to clean up. Now, for transplanting the flowers and shrubs that everyone had donated. Miss Eula oversaw it all. She knew which plants needed sun, which needed shade, and which needed both. "Okay, darlings," she shouted out. "Now we have to water all of this." I couldn't even guess how, but she organized it on the spot. It wasn't long before the entire neighborhood started bringing water they could spare in buckets and jars. It was a sight to see. That night I watched the stars from my window. I knew my bubby would be proud that I worked so hard to make someone else happy. I was sure a sign would come. But no sign came, not a spark nor a shimmer. It wasn't long, with the neighbors watering those plants each day, before the bright green of new growth appeared on every single bush, plant, and shrub. Some of the neighbors even repainted the red trim of Mrs. Bocce's house. But when Mrs. Bocce got home, no one heard from her, not even Miss Eula. Then, one overcast day, Miss Eula got an urgent call from Mrs. Bocce. "Come with me, baby dears," Miss Eula said. "Sounds like she needs us." When we arrived in Mrs. Bocce's back garden, she was kneeling in the middle of the courtyard, sobbing. "You had no right, Eula, no right," she choked out. "You know why I let the garden die. Because Angelo did. It was his garden, and I couldn't bear to see it anymore." She sobbed even harder. Miss Eula knelt next to her. "But Verna, Angelo would want you to keep his garden. He loved it so. Wouldn't it be the perfect tribute to him?" But she didn't have a chance to answer, because a second miracle jumped up. A light mist started to settle over the garden, then fine droplets fell from the sky. I couldn't believe it. "It's rain, Grandmommy, it's rain," Stuart crowed. With the rain pouring down, we started to circle, the four of us together, with our faces to the sky. "Angelo's letting us know that he wants this garden, Verna, and he wants you to flourish in it," Miss Eula whispered softly. It was a miracle, all right. But I found myself wondering why Mrs. Bocce got her sign from Angelo, but my bubby hasn't sent me mine. That night, as Miss Eula and I stood at her sink washing the dishes, we peered out the window at the dazzling array of stars twinkling above us. "Do you know what those really are?" she asked quietly. "Those are holes in the sky. The light of God shining through from the other side. All those we love who have left us and have moved through them and watch over us." I gasped. I hadn't ever told Miss Eula that secret from my bubby. Was that the sign? Miss Eula hugged me close, then trundled over to her wood stove and reached for something on the shelf above it. A small bottle of vanilla. She opened it and dabbed some behind each ear. Then she did the same to me. "Now we'll both smell delicious, don't we, baby dear?" There it was, a sign from Bubby. It was in front of me all along, not in the sky alone, but in Miss Eula herself. From that time on, Miss Eula shared so many things with me. Her lap would always welcome me when I needed her comfort and wisdom. Her grace, which seemed so effortless, touched everyone around her. And she taught me that all things reach for the stars, even us.
In our story, the girl looks to the stars for a sign that her grandmother is looking down on her. And she finds the sign not just in the stars, but in the love of the wise Miss Eula. In our story and in our readings, the stars are signs of hope, signs that God and those we love will be with us always. And our stars of hope are not just in the night sky. These signs from God are also standing alongside us. Beautiful stars like Miss Eula, nurturing us as we make our journey beneath the heavens together.